Welcome to Felixstowe News. It's the 3rd of September. This morning at Magpie Books, local author Ruth Dugdall was celebrating her continuing success with a book signing session. She found time to have a chat with us. Increasingly famous Felixstowe author, really. I mean, you've been doing this now. You've had 2 books on the market for several months.
Yes.
If you count your original book, 3 books on the market for a long time.
Yeah.
And when you look at your career to date, you've worked incredibly hard. Where are you getting? Are you getting somewhere?
Finally, I think I am. I mean, it's quite interesting because there's emails come through all the time now where there's good news happening. You know, yesterday I had the cover for the German edition of The Woman Before Me, which I wish I'd brought to show you. I love it. It's a brilliant cover, and obviously I won't be able to read it. I can't even read the title, but it just looks lovely, and that's going to be next summer. I've also got some news that I'm not allowed to disclose until next week about another competition shortlist, but that's going to be public next week. So things are happening. Every Saturday I'm doing a book signing somewhere. The brilliant thing about being here today is I didn't have to drive, which is wonderful because when I do drive I get lost. But you know, I'm going sort of anywhere. This week on Thursday I'm at WI where I was the summer read. There's going to be 150 people there, so you know it's growing, it's building.
How many books have you sold?
Well, I don't know the exact figures because you only get your royalties twice a year.
Yeah.
But it's certainly thousands, you know, which for a fairly unknown author with a small publisher, I mean, my publishers are really tiny. I think we've done really well. I mean, what really helped was them getting me on Woman's Hour. That really helped sales. But, you know, it's word of mouth. It's people just reading it, liking it, they talk to somebody else, and that's what's making the difference. It's you know, it's just kind of spreading. And the fact that I will go anywhere to a book club or to talk to somebody, that's also helped.
You've driven some colossal distances to go and sell books, haven't you?
Oh, it's ridiculous. In fact, last week, Coventry, which should have been 3 hours, I went on Bank Holiday Friday. There was accidents on the A14. It took me 6 hours. 6 hours. And I actually think if it, at some point, some people would have turned around, wouldn't they? But I kept going, even though Waterstones on Saturday was very quiet. You know, but it's like every book I sell is somebody who's going to pass it on, maybe, and so I just do it.
It has become a personal crusade to make Ruth Dugdall famous, hasn't it? Really,
one book at a time. I'm taking over the world. I mean, at some point, I've got to stop doing the publicity and get on with the next book.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't want to do too much publicity that I lose the writing.
That was the next question, really. I mean, what do you have in? Do you have a project in hand, in mind? Or?
I do. I've got 2 finished. They need final polishes before they go to the publishers. But I've started number 6, because the next 2 aren't Kate Austen novels, and the publishers have said you need to do another Kate Austen novel. So I've started number 6, which is a Kate Austen novel, and that's very early stages. But I've got a good feeling about that one. And so, you know, I'm excited about the writing still and keeping going. So yeah, I feel very fortunate, really.
You've worked incredibly hard over the period of time. How does your husband Andrew feel about it? Because he's got to be been pretty supportive, really, hasn't he?
He really has. I mean, if you started to add up what I've given up to do this, I mean, I had a good career with the probation service, and obviously I resigned, and you know, just the time and that it's taken, the hours, and actually he's never once said, you know, I think it's time you stop. I've said that. I've said I should go back to work, this isn't going to happen. But he's always had this sort of belief. And so every bit of good news I get, like last night with the German cover, you know, for me, showing it to Andrew was as exciting as seeing it myself, because he's is part of the team. And when I was on Woman's Hour, I was obviously in London, and immediately he's on the mobile saying, "Oh, your Amazon rank's gone up," and then he must have texted me about 15 times every time it went up. So I mean, he wasn't working that day; he was just watching Amazon. So he's very sort of involved, and he not involved with the writing. He doesn't particularly read the books so much, but the publicity, he's very interested in that, and obviously he'd like to retire.
Now, you've done signings in Felixstowe before, haven't you? It's your hometown. Is it a bit odd doing it on your home territory?
A little bit, but more and more when I go to, I don't know, to parties or whatever, people sort of have read the book or have heard of it. So there is a sense that if you're, you know, just locally, people do kind of know what's going on. So actually it feels very comfortable and relaxed, you know. I think most people by now will probably have got the books. So it'll be interesting to see how many come in today. But actually the fact that I've just had to walk from home makes it so much easier that it doesn't kind of matter. It's not about selling numbers. Whereas normally on a book signing I'd be standing up, approaching everybody who comes in. You know, I don't have to do that in Felixstowe. You know, people will come in and they'll sort of know about the books. So it's a lot easier actually. And I've been really lucky with the local support. You know, the local paper have always covered it, and there has been a sense of, you know, people being interested. Of course, they're set in Suffolk, and the woman before me is set in Felixstowe, so it's kind of, you know, it's been an easy sell locally anyway.